once again, something like cannibalism without killing, right? Some cultures eat their dead. Some cultures burn their dead. Some cultures bury their dead. It's pretty disgusting, right? According to some, right? Some people maybe aren't as disgusted by cannibalism, eating dead bodies. But well, look, as long as it's not considered disrespectful in that culture, or as long as, right, it doesn't ultimately harm anybody or break rules which have this moral function, it would seem that eating dead bodies is okay, right? If it's considered in that culture a way of honoring the person, tasting how tasty they are, then maybe it's even morally laudable, right? To eat their dead body. Now that's a little riveting too, but I think we can accept that sort of relativistic claim while keeping, this conception. Look, if anybody's harmed by it, if it's like, really disgraceful to do that, and you're really injuring the family's, right, like here, right? If there's a funeral and the person gets eaten, that's going to be very traumatic for the family, very traumatic for almost anyone involved who even finds out about it, right? So in a culture like this, I'm not even thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty traumatic. So we don't want to do that here, right? So there's that bit of relativism, but we can still retain this sort of central core of harm being responsible for making the moral rules what they are. A way you can bake. Is that a product you're gonna come out with? So once again, I mean, if this is compatible with being religious, you can endorse this sort of harm-based conception of morality and still believe in God, even the very traditional Christian God. But you're not going to fall into the sorts of paradoxes that I pointed out as far as arbitrariness of God's will, if you think that morality is separate from His will. Right? So to say killing people is wrong only because God says it is, that throws you into this arbitrariness paradox. God could have commanded you to eat grass every Wednesday.
Look at all the gods before Him.
Yeah, I mean, fill in what you like. But all of the gods before Him. Right. So, but yeah, you can still be a Christian, a Jew, a Buddhist, or whatever, and believe in this harm-based conception of morality. So, at any rate, what I hope has happened here is that you've discovered some things about morality, and that you at least are tempted by my claim that this is a central core of what morality comes to. I also hope that you have plenty of questions for me or questions for each other, polls maybe, about what morality comes to.
So right, a lot of this view, right, like you were saying, is the central, what seems to be the undergirding feature of these rules is, well, these are rules that, prohibit harm to other people. And then you were talking about, well, you don't need to just think about it as morality as a set of prohibitions of things that you shouldn't be doing. Maybe there's some things that are good to do, right? So then you're talking about these ideals. I'm wondering, like, on this view, what sort of undergirds the ideals? So, like, maybe an ideal is we should care for people who need help, and you should have compassion on people. And you might not think that you have some obligation to do it, but you might think it's still good to do it. And I'm wondering what undergirds this harm and these prohibitions. What is it in these ideals?
Why is it good?
Yeah.
Well, I think you can plug in almost any theory of value. You can just say it's a brute fact that it's good to be benefited. You could say, well, people generally want to be benefited, and it's good insofar as people want the thing that benefits them. Or you could have a hedonistic theory of value and say that, well, what's good is good because it produces pleasure. um, at any rate, I think that's basically the answer to your question. You just plug in any theory of value, and that just 100 Gert's the ideals. Do I subscribe to any one of those? No. Does Gert subscribe to any one of those theories of value? No. But yeah, I don't see any reason to be concerned about just plugging any theory of value.
Tied to this comment, I think it's important to have some things tied into these ideals and make them part of this moral. I'll tell you why. Because if, for example, in a capitalist society, you create goods for people, but there's an economy factor, and all of a sudden, if you make love a commodity, those who cannot afford love, all of a sudden, cannot access this ideal. Therefore, is that morally right? What about all those people that kind of want to make music a commodity? I'm saying that the typical example of Girl Scouts cannot sing Happy Birthday because they have to get legal permission because there's this copyright to sing Happy Birthday. So it is.
Yeah.
So imagine a tradition being broken because all of a sudden there's a commodity being created out of these ideals that we take them for granted, but they're not. They are disappearing.
Yeah. Okay.
Music, love, dance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure what to say about the examples of music, dance, and love in particular. I can say something about capitalism that might help us understand morality better. So, in a capitalist society, it sometimes claims, with some decent evidence, that the rich tend to get richer and the poor tend to get poorer. Now, if you have a society like that, which is capitalist, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, maybe the poor get so poor that there's just like either they're in dire straits in their own right, or you might think it's such an unjust distribution of wealth that it's really bad to be one of the worst off, and that it's a fault of the system, the economic system itself, that they're in those dire straits. If that's true, then, well, you could either say the reason they're badly off is because somebody harmed them by making the system the way it is.
The rich learn to lie.
Yeah.
While everybody else is down lying.
Yeah. One thing that I'm tempted to add to Bernard Gert's list is reparations. Right. If you harm someone else, making it up to them seems like the morally important thing. And yeah, that's pretty much left out of old Bernard's view. It's something that W.D. Ross, by contrast, would emphasize. Anyway, so if somebody harmed the people at the bottom of the society, they might have a duty of reparation, right? Because if people don't make up the harms, then right, it's gonna right. People feel free to not ever make it up to people. Then there's going to be a lot of hard feelings. Or you could say the people at the bottom weren't actually harmed by anybody. It's just something bad that happened in the world. And then, we can't blame anybody for not, we can't blame the rich. Maybe we can't blame the rich for not helping the poor. But, yeah, that gets into an interesting issue. So I think you're pressing on something by bringing up capitalism, right? If we want to go occupy Wall Street and say, look, you 1%, you're so darn wealthy.
It's not more about that. It's about making abundance ideals that we take taking ideals that we take for granted, or they're ideals, and all of a sudden making them a commodity.
Yeah,
that's the danger that I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Like love, music, dance, peace. Here you want peace. Here you buy our weapons. You know what I'm saying? You ally with us.
Yeah,
Are
that's
you
interesting.
against copyright stuff or anything?
Well, I am majorly to a certain of it. Majorly because of I'm against copyrighted stuff that is that that all of a sudden somebody appropriated out of the tradition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, oh, I now bought this. Somebody
Copyrighting
they got
genetics.
together and now they bought this. I'm like,
Copyright this plant.
like for example, I know Cubans in Miami who are really poor people. Yet I all of a sudden I buy albums in the United States with Cuban music, and guess who are the artists? These Cubans, and they don't even know that this music is being made.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, and I know that I'm like, oh my god, and it blows my mind. So there's a myth in the commodity that you create.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So.
The same with dance. All of a sudden they're suing artists because they're all of a sudden copying steps of other artists. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me?
I think I know what's bothering you. I think that what's bothering you is that there's theft going on. So like people have this like intellectual property, and then somebody else is like sort of stealing their idea and selling it to further their own gain.
Somehow, what's wrong with an abundance of beauty or dance or music?
Uh-huh.
Why cut it in little pieces and now it belongs to me? When
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
bullshit. Because I mean, there's so many steps you can do with the human body. You know?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. If we can say that the problem is theft. Theft is, I would say, a kind of disabling. Like if I steal somebody's property, then they're
I don't see
less
theft in any of these, but I do
Yeah, yeah,
see
yeah.
the loss of freedom and loss of pleasure by making commodities out of ideals.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
peace, love.
So theft kind of has to do with like all these bottom three here, I think. So, yeah.
I think you had his hand up before I did.
Oh.
So I mean, basically, I get so. First of all, I mean, your main principle here is that morality ultimately has to do with the minimization of harm.
Yeah.
And would you say that sort of that comes from human nature, or do you think that that's a principle that people build otherwise?
Well, the answer is I think yes, it does. It is built into human nature that we reverse the harm. This is something I didn't go into, but in the talk, but at the basis of Gert's theory is the notion of rationality or irrationality, more precisely.
I mean, of course, everybody is personally, they don't want to be harmed themselves, but I mean, could you argue? I mean, if you look at human history, how adverse are we to harming others?
Yeah, good, right. So at the core, right, is this notion that it's irrational to harm yourself, to want any of these things for yourself, or bring any of these things upon yourself without any compensating benefit. It's crazy. I'm gonna flip a coin. If it comes up heads, I'm gonna cut my leg off.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It'd be irrational to use such a thing. Now, we combine rationality with impartiality. The recognition that you are as vulnerable to harm as I am, and he is as you are, etc. And that, a harm is just as bad for me as it is for him, is the way I'm putting it. When we combine rationality with impartiality, then we get commands, right? Rules prohibiting harming each other, right? Because, I mean, it's rational to harm other people if you can get away with it, but it's just, it's a morally wrong thing. But as far as, this notion of human nature, does it arise from human nature? I think yes, because our aversion to human nature, our aversion to harms is itself based in human nature. Everybody's averse to harms unless they're crazy, and that's very few people. Now, are we very motivated to comply with moral rules and refrain from harming other people? Not really. I mean, that's a question of how good are humans. Are we sinful or not? Are we altruistic or egoistic? And that's a hard question. I don't make any claims about that.
I thought your point about just kind of grounding the harming bit on shared human nature I think is awesome. Like it's just like it's the right way to go, because like you said, if there were some other island with different kinds of humans, then we would talk about different things, but I think it really is a death blow to moral relativism.